Clay rules. Clay does not leave the art room, throwing clay is not acceptable, clean up your spot correctly, and your bag equals your clay. Use it wisely. Don't let clay run away. Make sure to close your Ziploc bag securely, otherwise your clay can dry out. Also make sure that you write your name on the tape on your bag. Put your day and period too. Keep table trays organized and neat so the other classes don't have a big mess to pick up. If you need a sponge to wash off your table, go to the sponge bucket next to the door that you come in. After each class, you need to use a sponge to clean off your table. Use a little soap and water and wash off your table, but make sure not to leave a big puddle for the next class. Big puddles are bad. Use a paper towel to wipe the table off until it's dry before you leave. If you see any clay on the floor or around your table, make sure that you pick it up. Pick up all clay. It might seem fun, but throwing clay is a problem. Why? It wastes clay, it causes a much bigger mess, and it distracts other students. Creating a square or rectangle box out of clay. The first thing that you'll need are your design plans that you've already made. So you should have one final large half-sheet design plan. And then you'll get your bag of clay. So there's your bag of clay. And then before you do anything, it's very important that you take some tape and you stick it onto the bag and write your name on that tape with your day and period. So for example, mine is Miss Bryan's, and then if I was period 1, it would be 1A on day A. So if you're day B, you would write B. If you're day A, write A, and then your period number, whatever hour you have this class. So now you can take your clay out and then save your bag, because you're going to reuse your bag to store everything that you make, especially if you don't want it to dry out. So I have 2 guides on each side of my clay and a rolling pin or a roller. And the guides are the same thickness, so even thickness. And the reason why we use these is because we want the clay to be a nice even thickness. It'll make it stronger and it'll also make it look more professional. Now I'm going to take apart my clay into 3 chunks. One is for the base, the other one is for the sides, and the last one is for the lid that I'm going to use. So you might want to divide your clay up into 3s or thirds. And if you ever need to re-roll the clay, that's totally fine. You can always re-roll it. It's not the end of the world if you have to start over. So I rolled out my 1/3 of clay, and now I'm going to measure it to see how big I want it. So I think I'm going to do 2 inches on one side and then 3 inches on the other. So it's going to be a rectangle box, not a square. And then I can just use a wooden tool to cut out the clay, and you'll see that it's an even thickness. It's pretty much the same on all sides. So a nice even thickness, about 3/8 inches. And I'm just checking my measurements again, and it's okay if it's a little off. Clay is pretty forgiving. You can always change it around if you need to. And now comes the part of rolling out the sides of the clay. And I'm going to probably have to roll a couple times before I get all of my sides rolled out. So if you need to put some clay together, then you'll need to wedge it. Wedging is pounding the clay, often with the part of the hand that's below the palm, and you basically gently squeeze it together and roll it together and make sure that you get all air bubbles out. You also want to make sure you get most cracks out, and this helps it keep it from weakening, especially when you put it in the kiln. There's a chance that you could have a problem where it might crack or blow up, so that's why we wedge clay. And then once it's pretty much all wedged together, all mixed together, then I'm going to roll out the ball of clay that I wedged and create the sides of my box. So I'm using the ruler to measure to make sure I get pretty close to the right size. And if you don't know what size, you can always remeasure the base of your box. And you can always take clay away, but if you need to add clay, you'll need to re-roll another slab. So a slab of clay is just rolling out the clay. And there you see I have 3 of my sides kind of assembled as like a model just to see what I have done. And then I'm going to roll my last slide. Alright, now the next part is I'm going to use addition, slipping, and scoring. So scoring is making marks into the clay where I want to attach pieces. If you ever want to attach pieces together, you need to score it and then slip it. Slip it is adding a mixture of water and clay, and it kind of acts like a glue for clay once it hardens. And once you put it into the kiln, it'll form a really secure bond. So I'm scratching up where I want to attach pieces. You might have heard of it as scratch to attach. You need to scratch both sides of the pieces you want to attach. So I'm attaching my side, so I need to scratch the bottom of that side, and then I scratched my base. Now I add just a little bit of water from my water bucket, and it's okay if it's dirty water. That's actually a good thing. You want it to be a little bit dirty. And you need to add water to both sides, and then press just very lightly. You don't have to squish it. Press pretty lightly. And there I have my side and my base kind of sticking together. And I don't want to just leave that seam, so that's kind of the line showing. I don't want to leave that. I want to make sure that I completely cover that up. And I'll be doing that more in just a minute. But now I'm adding the rest of my sides, and I'm adjusting and taking clay off where I need it. Because eventually you want your box to look like it's made out of one piece of clay. You don't want it to look like you stuck a bunch of pieces together. So now I'm smoothing it out, smoothing out all of my seams and edges, and it's starting to look like I made it out of one piece of clay. And there's my finished box. I'm going to put it inside of the Ziploc bag, put extra clay in the Ziploc bag too. And now I'm going to show you how to do a round clay box. So if you need something that's more round, like a pumpkin or something like that. So I rolled out one of my slabs, and instead of doing a square, I'm going to do kind of an oval, kind of a pumpkin shape actually. And I'm going to cut that out with the wooden tool, or you could use a clay knife. Doesn't matter which tool. Many tools will work as a way to cut clay. Now the round box is a little bit different because you're only going to roll one side, and it's going to be one long strip of clay. So I'm wedging my clay again because I need to make sure that it's stuck together really well and strong. And then I'm going to roll it out. And I kind of made it longer and skinnier, more like a snake. And I'm just testing it out here. And then I'm going to trim it to make it more even so the top is even. And then I need to start scoring again. So scratching up where I'm going to attach it. I need to score it on the side that I'm going to attach it to. And then I need to add some water to act as the glue to keep this box together. Alright, and I have some extra clay there. I'm going to start to make sure that the seams aren't showing. Again, we want it to look like one big piece of clay, so I don't want to see any seams or edges. And there we are.